Someone is shaping what you think is possible for you right now. Not with a gun to your head, not with a court order, and not with any kind of obvious force. They're doing it quietly and invisibly through the structures of everyday life, through the conversations that never happen, through the choices that were never put on the table for you to begin with. And the most stunning part, you probably think it's all your own idea. This video is about power differentials. It's not the kind of power that lives in boardrooms or government buildings, but the kind that lives inside every single human relationship, every workplace, every family dinner, and yes, inside your own mind. By the time this is over, you're going to see your world completely differently, and that might be the most uncomfortable, most extraordinary, and most necessary thing that happens to you today. Part 1. The ocean you're swimming in. Here's a question that most people never stop to ask. Who decided what was normal? Who decided that a 40-hour work week was reasonable? Who decided that certain people get to speak in meetings and others take notes? Who decided that some expertise gets respected and other kinds of knowing get dismissed? These aren't natural laws, they didn't fall from the sky. Someone somewhere made decisions that became invisible over time, and now everyone just calls it reality. Michel Foucault, one of the most eye-opening thinkers of the 20th century, had a profound way of describing this. He said power isn't something that a king or a boss or a president simply holds. Power is more like an ocean. Everyone is swimming in it. It moves through institutions, through language, through medicine, through education, through every relationship a person has ever had. He called it the microphysics of power. This means power operates not just at the grand political level, but in the tiniest, most ordinary interactions of daily life. Think about the last time someone talked over you in a meeting, or the last time a doctor dismissed your concerns before you even finished your sentence, or the last time you felt like your voice didn't carry the same weight as someone else's in the room. That wasn't random. That wasn't just a personality clash. It was power, doing what power always does. It flows towards some people and away from others so naturally that nobody even names it. Foucault also said something profound and deeply unsettling. Power and knowledge are inseparable. He didn't mean that knowledge is power in the motivational poster sense. He meant that whoever controls what counts as legitimate knowledge controls reality itself. When a field of expertise gets to define what's true, what's sick, what's sane, what's criminal, that's not neutral, that's a form of power that most people never even see coming. Part 2. The hidden game nobody told you about. Now here's where it gets genuinely bewildering. Most people, when they think about power, imagine an obvious conflict like two people arguing, one winning, one losing. That's real, but it's the surface layer. Political philosopher Stephen Lukes wrote something astonishing in Power, a Radical View. He said power actually operates on 3 levels, and the most terrifying one is the level most people never even notice. The first level is the one everyone sees, such as a fight, a vote, or a negotiation. Someone wins and someone loses. This is clear enough. The second level is agenda setting. This is where someone doesn't just win the argument. They get to decide which arguments are even allowed to happen. Think about that. If you can control what gets discussed, you never have to defend your position because the challenge never even makes it to the table. This happens in corporations, in governments, in families, in friendships. The conversation that never happens is often more powerful than any conversation that does. But the third level is where power gets deeply and darkly uncomfortable. Lukes calls it preference shaping. This is when power operates so deeply inside a system that the people being limited by it genuinely believe their own limitations are their own choices. They don't want more, they don't ask for more. This isn't because they're stupid, but because the system has shaped their desires themselves. And here's where a reasonable objection shows up. Isn't that a bit paranoid? Isn't it possible that some hierarchies are just functional? A doctor having more authority in an operating room than a patient makes sense. A teacher guiding a child rather than treating them as an equal is practical, not oppressive. That's a fair and important point. Hannah Arendt, another remarkable thinker, made a crucial distinction. She said there is a difference between power and violence, between legitimate authority and domination. Some power differentials exist to protect, to guide, to enable better outcomes. The ethical question isn't whether power exists in a relationship, it always does. The question is whether that power is being used for the well-being of the more vulnerable person, or for the control and benefit of the more powerful one. Part 3. Nietzsche's truth about human motivation. Friedrich Nietzsche threw a philosophical grenade into this entire conversation when he proposed that the deepest drive in human beings isn't pleasure and isn't survival. It's what he called the will to power. And before a person assumes this is like something a supervillain would say, it's worth understanding what Nietzsche actually meant. He didn't mean the will to dominate others, he meant the drive to grow, to overcome and to become. He saw power not just as control over others, but as the extraordinary capacity to shape one's own life, to resist being flattened by circumstance, and to refuse the comfortable mediocrity of just going along with whatever the culture has decided you should be. In other words, the will to power can be the most liberating force in a person's life, or the most destructive, and the difference depends entirely on whether it's directed inward or projected outward onto the people around you. This is where 4 different types of power become remarkable tools for self-understanding. Power over is coercion and control, the kind that shrinks others. Power 2 is individual agency, the incredible capacity to act and change things. Power with is solidarity and collective action. It's the kind of strength that comes from genuine collaboration. And power within is perhaps the most profound of all. This is self-worth, internal dignity, and the unshakable sense that your voice matters and your existence has value. Most people, if they're being honest, have been starved of at least one of these. And the gap between where someone is and where they could be often has far less to do with ability or luck than it does with these invisible systemic dynamics that nobody ever explained to them. Part 4. What this means for your life. So, what does a person do with all of this? It's one thing to understand that power is everywhere, it's another to know what to do about it. The philosopher John Rawls spent his life wrestling with distributive justice. This is the question of how resources and rights should be distributed in a society where power is already unequal. His answer was both simple and stunning. Design the system as if you don't know where you'll end up in it. If you might be at the bottom, you'll want the bottom to be protected. That's not idealism, that's rational and humane thinking. But there's something even more immediate here. There's something that applies not to society as a whole, but to the specific life a person is navigating right now. Understanding power differentials means beginning to see the invisible architecture of every relationship, every institution, every environment a person moves through. It means asking with genuine curiosity and without bitterness, whose agenda is being served here? Who benefits from the way this conversation is being framed? What is never being discussed, and why? These aren't paranoid questions. They are some of the most clarifying questions a human being can ask. And they have a strange, almost miraculous side effect. They make a person freer. Not free in the naive sense of having no constraints, but free in the profound sense of seeing the constraints clearly enough to navigate them with intention. Part 5. The most important conversation. Here is the most important conversation you were never supposed to have. Here is the truth that ties all of this together. Power differentials are not going away. They are not a problem that philosophy or psychology or politics will one day fully solve. They are woven into the fabric of human social life, as Foucault said, as pervasively as oxygen. But there is a world of difference between a person who swims through that ocean unconsciously, carried by currents they never chose, shaped by agendas they never saw, and a person who understands the water they're in. This person can sometimes carefully and powerfully begin to swim in a different direction. The most profound discovery a person can make is that the story they've been telling themselves about why their life looks the way it does was not written alone. It was co-authored quietly and persistently by every power structure they've ever moved through. Seeing that isn't a reason for despair. It's the beginning of something incredible. Because once the invisible becomes visible, once the unspoken gets named, once a person starts asking who benefits and who is protected and who is being silenced, that is when real change, real freedom and real dignity become possible. Power has always been in the room. Now you know how to see it.